All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're looking at a pretty radical document called the Zero RTG Manifesto. Now, this isn't just an idea, it's a full-on blueprint that claims it can use technology to solve some of the biggest problems humanity has ever faced. We're talking the big ones. It's ambitious, it's definitely provocative, and it all kicks off with one huge question.
And look, this isn't just some philosophical thought experiment. This question is the absolute core mission of the entire manifesto. The document doesn't just ask, what if? It actually lays out a super detailed and, yeah, some might say pretty extreme, technological roadmap to try and make it happen.
So the ultimate goal here is nothing less than a complete reinvention of society. It's all driven by something it calls the Zero-RT Algoteria, which is basically a society governed by a very specific set of algorithms. This vision isn't about small tweaks. It's about tearing everything down and rebuilding it from scratch. And it all sits on three massive pillars.
Think of the whole plan like a pyramid. It starts with the most fundamental thing a society needs, energy. Then, it uses that foundation to literally reshape how we think. And finally, on top of all that, it builds a brand new political system. So, let's start at the base, energy as solidarity.
This first pillar isn't just about coming up with a new power grid. No, it reframes the very idea of energy as a tool for bringing people together, for building solidarity. The argument is that the way we share power can fundamentally change how we interact with each other. And this quote just hits the nail on the head, right? The manifesto is making it crystal clear. This is not just an engineering project. The very act of sharing energy becomes a political statement, a social act. It creates this web of mutual support that holds up everything else in the plan.
So, how does it actually work? Well, the core idea is a decentralized device-to-device power-sharing network. Just imagine, your phone could directly send some of its battery life to your friend's phone right next to you. This creates what the document calls a digital solidarity network, one that could, in theory, operate completely off the traditional electrical grid.
You know, the tech itself is surprisingly simple. It uses standard stuff we all have, like Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. An algorithm basically plays matchmaker, finding a device that needs juice and one that has extra to share. Meanwhile, sensors are just making sure the whole thing is safe. The revolutionary part isn't any single step. It's that when you put them all together, you get a power grid that's totally decentralized. Now, the manifesto claims the ripple effects from this one technology would be enormous. It's not just about keeping our phones on. We're talking about creating disaster-proof communities, enabling education anywhere, and even sparking a new kind of collaborative economy. This energy network becomes both the literal and figurative power source for the next, even more radical part of the plan.
Okay, so once that energy foundation is in place, the manifesto moves to its second pillar. And this is where things get way more futuristic. It's about directly tackling the root causes of conflict by reshaping human thought itself.
And this is where the plan starts to sound like something straight out of science fiction. It proposes a whole suite of technologies to first identify harmful thought patterns. We're talking remote fMRIs and something called emotional LiDAR, a system that could theoretically detect public sentiment in real time. Then, it would use things like AR-based empathy training and mobile pop-up schools to actively change those beliefs. So, the crucial point here is this complete philosophical pivot away from our current justice system. Instead of punishing people for what they've already done, the goal is to reprogram their future behavior. Instead of locking people away, it proposes using technology for what it calls restorative intervention, things like empathy simulations designed to get rid of prejudice at its source.
All right, that brings us to the top of the pyramid, the final, and you could definitely say the most controversial pillar of the whole manifesto, a complete reinvention of government, of citizenship, of politics as we know it.
The system it proposes is called a compulsory civic meritocracy. In this world, elections are just gone. They don't exist. Instead, the whole state is run by a centralized administration, and being a full citizen isn't something you're born with, it's something you have to earn through mandatory public service.
So the path to becoming a citizen is exactly the same for everyone, and it's designed to create this shared experience. First, everybody, and I mean everybody, gets a standardized education. Then, you have to do a mandatory tour of duty in public service. It's a single term, no re-ups, no exceptions. And only after you've served the state can you get all the benefits of being a full citizen.
So, why on earth would you do all this? Well, the stated reason is to create a government run by experts, totally free from political games. By getting rid of elections, the goal is to eliminate short-term thinking. And by making service mandatory for all, the hope is that only people who have actually contributed to society are the ones running it, which, in theory, would wipe out corruption and inequality.
Now, the manifesto knows this sounds extreme, and it actually tries to address the biggest objections head-on. To the obvious point about a lack of freedom, no voting, it redefines freedom as a collective commitment to a stable society for everyone. As for forcing people into service, it says that's simply the price you pay for a world where nobody gets left behind. And to stop power from corrupting, the system relies on mandatory rotation. Nobody ever gets a second term.
And really, in the end, every single piece of tech, every political proposal we've talked about in this document, it all ties back to this one powerful idea. The goal isn't just to build a more efficient machine, but to use that machine to recharge a sense of collective hope for the future.
And so that leaves us with the million-dollar question, doesn't it? Is the Zero-RG Manifesto a brilliant manual for building a perfect world, one free of war and hate? Or is it a terrifying roadmap for a society built on total technological control? The document lays out the plan. What it all means, well, that's for us to think about.